put the whiskey down then.
Took you by surprise there, didn't I? In record. Okay, so welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast. So this week we have something different. So last week I'll say I was on holiday. I wasn't on holiday. It was just the school holidays and busy, being a really good dad, obviously. Didn't have time for a podcast. So this week we're back into it, but a bit of a difference. So instead of this is going to sound offensive to you guys
Superstars
now, isn't it?
instead of
superstar ultra runners, we have industry insiders. That's what I'm going to call you, industry insiders, to talk about mainly to talk about UTMB and the ongoing fiasco. Because Kate Allen, who is on, welcome to the show, Kate Allen.
Thank you, Sam Hill.
Very official. Calling you by your full name.
There's so many Kates out there. Yeah.
I'll refer to you as Kate. Well, I don't want to confuse you with my wife, Kate. So,
Okay, no.
So you are Kate on the show. But not that my wife has ever featured on the show, other than my anecdotes. And then Ben Hells Bells. It's Ben Wells Runs Fells is his official title.
when not injured.
We'll get to that.
Don't get me started.
We'll get to injury, as we always do on this podcast.
I used to run the fells. Yeah, I used to be a runner.
Hells Bells, it's Ben Wells who used to run fells.
Wow, that's getting good. You're really smooth.
Yeah, getting in there. Yeah, I'm kind of getting into
You've been practicing that, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been practicing that, yeah. In the mirror with my halo light, with my eyes glistening. Yeah, enough of that. Yeah, so firstly then, obviously we're gonna talk about UTMB and the ongoing fiasco. I wrote an article for you, Kate, for the Run Ultra website. We talked and went into some bits of information about that. But before we dive into all of that, I just want to have a bit of a catch up with you guys and see how you've been doing. I know we have mentioned the I word, which is one of we've mentioned the injury word, and that's along with the spine race. That's probably the two bingo words on this podcast, isn't it? If you mention injury or the spine race, then it's okay.
Is it a first, though? Is it a first that you are the least injured person?
Amazingly, I am the least injured person
jinx him.
on the podcast.
He's not injured and he's doing the spine. It's like double whammy.
Yeah.
It's like all the stars are fine.
He's a hustler.
Finally, yeah, that's it. I've just been making up all this time while I've just been having a really slow build over 2 years. Kate, what's been happening with you? Because I know you've, similar to me, you've had injury woes, but has yours taken a turn for the worse, or what is the latest?
Taken another downturn. So yeah, I've got a suspected MCL tear or pull or something, which I was innocently hiking up a hill when it happened, and it just went. So yeah, I've got some sexy crutches to accessorize my new outdoor gear. Yeah, so I'm just waiting. I've been referred, so I'm waiting for the phone call to come in. And
I saw you with your crutches that look like machine guns. Do you
feel like you came up with the best comment? Definitely.
Was that you?
And their guns, and yeah, I'm definitely going to take out several people with them over the next few weeks. That's for sure.
When you're injured, you feel like taking people out with a machine gun, don't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. Just don't cross me.
Are they
don't cross in front of me, or I will take you.
Ones? Are they Lecky carbon fiber or just standard NHS?
They're standard NHS, but I must admit, I have been using the Lecky ones in secret. I don't need to put my full weight on the poles, so I think I use them for the long distances between the car park and my work and walking the dog. But then otherwise, I use the Leckies. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the uneducated, what's the MCL? Is that the inner knee? Is
it median something ligament? So
right.
it's the ligament that attaches the I think it's the quad, sort of around the inside of the knee down to sort of underneath it.
Yeah.
and it can be torn or stretched or pulled, or so I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I'm uninitiated as well, so I've just been Googling madly, which is always fatal, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, how did you do that? Has that been sort of long term, Kate, or is that something that's just gone?
I'm not sure if I've had issues with my knees and they've been swollen, and I've been sort of seeing a consultant and doing lots of strength work, and it just went. I was doing, we're not on the BBC, so I can actually plump there's a new round from the shop. There's 3 new rounds from the shop, the new Innovate shop in Bakewell, if I'm allowed to say that. And one of them is a 15k, and then there's a 50 and 115k, and I was just doing the 15k with my friend, and literally, walking up a hill, and it just went. And it just means now it's just sort of seized, and I can't bend, I can't straighten my knee, and I can't bend it beyond a certain range either. So
bad news.
Anyway, can we let's go on to something more positive,
let's
please.
Move on from injury woes. So
let's go to the spine. Let's talk about the spine.
No. You touched on one of the subjects I wanted to talk to you about, which is obviously the new Innovate Bakewell flagship store. Yeah, is it a flagship? Yeah, you can call it a flagship.
Well, no, I think the Forge is technically, because that was the first shop, but we're the first sort of fully independent, not attached to a warehouse or the head office. Yeah.
So as well as obviously being at the helm of Run Ultra and everything that involves, this is a, what is this? Is this a little side project of yours, or is this what made you decide to? Did you just see it was opening and decided to dive in?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working freelance now for 5 years from my kitchen, and
lovely kitchen. Looks nice.
Thank you. Yeah, everything's there now, but you can't see it. And I just thought, I've done some work with Innovate before, and I heard about the shop, and I used to work for Cotswolds, and I really enjoyed working in the shop, and I thought this would be a great way to do some part-time work, just to get me out of my cave, really, and to get people facing again and talking to people about the same stuff that I do online, but in person, which I really enjoy. So nice. It's great. We've got a great team of us. There's 4 of us, and it's going really well. Everyone's been really pleased that we've opened up, and hopefully the more people realize that we're there. It's quite interesting. We did get some people. I'm amazed at how many people don't know what Innovate is as they walk in. And we had one lady walk in the other day asking for a pair of Brooks glycerin, and sadly we had to say, sorry, we can't help you there. But have you tried our new road shoe? And so it's also been a question of sort of educating people that this is a Lake District brand. It's a UK British company, so.
And you've there's a new bit of branding going on, isn't there? With the store, is it the first store to take on the new?
Yeah. Well, they did actually have it in America, but yes, we've kind of opened to coincide with the new branding. So, which I think, although a lot of people are like, oh my god, but actually I think it's better, because a lot of people also come in and go, oh, what's this new company Innov? Because they don't realize that their foot is an 8. So I think it's good that they've made that clearer. They've taken away the hyphen, they've added the 8, and the talon obviously is a sort of hallmark of their first shoe. So it's good.
I was at a fell race on Saturday here, and I was marshalling with a lady because I'm injured, and she'd never heard of Innovate, and she's a runner. She said, oh, what shoes that? I was like, oh, it's a Mudclaw, Innovate. What's that? Oh, right, okay, what's that one? That's X Talon or Cross Talon, whatever. So I think because we love fell running or ultra running, we just presume everybody else knows the brand. I mean, Innovate for a long time now, and you just presume, don't you?
You
But
do, yeah.
yeah,
You don't. You
people don't.
think it's this big thing in the running world, and actually, not everyone has heard of it. So, yeah.
I think if you know, you know. It's one of those things,
One of
isn't
those,
it?
isn't it? Yeah.
You know all about it, but if you don't know a brand, then you kind of just could be a bit ignorant to stuff, can't you?
Yeah.
How long they've been going? Innovate.
Are you going to ask me technical
Yeah,
questions?
I'm
I'm going to say the early noughties. Over 10 years.
Ben's Googling now.
I'm thinking I was wearing rock lights before I moved to Dolgell Light. So I was in Mid Wales. So 2008, 2006, I'd be wearing rock light boots.
Yeah,
Been
really
around a while.
I'm Googling.
Quick Google. Well,
Yeah, I love going into those shops. So it looks like Kate's hit the nail on the head. You've got to have people in these stores that love running or love the product. My wife's always rolling her eyes, going to some of the shops locally, and I'm talking to the people about fell running or what events are coming up, the product, and the people in there. You can tell they live and breathe it as well. You can be in there for hours.
Oh, it's great. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, a chap called Gary Doolan came in the other day who wrote an article for Ultramag, who's been to, he did the Andalus trail. And yeah, it's just amazing. You can just immediately start talking. And he'd done the arc of attrition. He'd done it last year. He was talking about his injuries. And I mean, you can just lose. We lost a good couple of hours just.
Yeah. You've got that common interest, haven't you?
Yeah. Especially when you've got an injury, you both got injuries, you're just like comparing injuries. How long have you been out for? Well, anyway, 2003.
2003.
I was right on the early noughties.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so they have been going for 20 years. Amazing, if my maths is correct.
And I'm going to say that the Rock Light is their most popular, long-standing trail shoe.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's probably the most what's the word I'm looking for? Useful, but broad,
all-rounder.
ranging, all-rounder. That's the word.
Yeah. And I love the boot. I use it. I use so here's my Innovate promotion. I love the Rock Light boot. I mean, it's just amazing.
The 345.
I've got the 285 GTX, I think, at the moment.
Okay.
So, like for mountain rescue call outs, you've got to be seen to be toeing the line to perhaps the uneducated. So if I'm on call outs in a pair of trainers, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, they frown on that, don't they?
So a casualty or other people, they don't know that a fell shoe is probably the most grippiest thing in the right terrain. So to have the boot, waterproof, light, and grippy.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So,
I did hear the tide was turning when talking about when I was doing my mountain leader training. They are now being more open to trail running shoes and accepting that you might want a draining shoe rather than one that holds all the water in.
Yeah, it was all brown leather Scarpa boots when I did my ML.
Yes. Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
I've still got them downstairs somewhere.
You've still got all of the shoes. How many pairs of shoes have you got, Ben? This is a question.
It's got to be over 20
in circulation, or do they just look some of them?
Oh, do you mean the ones on top of my wardrobe?
Yeah,
you keep.
I've got stock. I've got stock on my wardrobe. I must have 5 pairs on there. Yeah.
Is that old or not yet in?
They're box fresh, ready to go.
They're ready to go.
You never know, do you? Though you might need the right trainer.
Another pandemic. Fly training shoes.
Well, my argument is it's not. It's a wholesome sport. I'm not into drugs or alcohol too much, so
anymore.
Buying trainers. It's not a bad thing.
It's a small vice.
Of course, there is the argument for my carbon footprint, but I get my best out of them.
There's worse things to be addicted to. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, if you're keeping them, that's the important thing. It's if you're chucking them away, that's when your carbon footprint goes up.
Yeah, they have a hierarchy. So the box fresh, and so you can get them out and have a look at them every now and again, put them back on. Then you've got the ones you actually use. And then once they're worn out, they go to dog walking shoes.
Yeah.
And walk to the van shoes for work. So there's a hierarchy.
Okay. Excellent. Well, that's good.
And then you can wash them at the very end of the scale, put them on Vinted and sell them for £25.
No. What, and they haven't got any holes in them?
No. Well, they come up like new once you wash them, don't they? Yeah.
Wow.
There we are.
I'm very impressed. I'll get Darren Evans onto you. You'll be very impressed.
For marketing and productivity. It's my specialist subject.
Behind the scenes, but I had visions of you like got a friend who's a Star Wars collector, and he like keeps all of his Star Wars stuff in the boxes and never he opens them every now and then and has a little look at them and just they're still there, it's all still good, and then he puts them back, and that's what I kind of imagined you doing with your shoes.
I do. I mean, I must be a sucker for marketing. I have got a pair of Alpha Flies. I've never even ran a road marathon. I don't even like road running, but I get caught up in it. Kinchobi wears them. They must be amazing. They're on special offer. So I've even got a pair of Alpha Flies on my wardrobe.
That's so funny. Well, so long as you don't release them into the wild to cause trouble, that's fine.
Okay, I'll keep them safe up there. They might be worth hundreds, maybe more than the new Adidas ones in 10 years' time.
Yeah, maybe. What, the Adidas ones that just disintegrate over time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, what, the ones after one wear?
Apparently.
Oh no. Okay, we're going into dangerous waters now.
Damien wasn't too happy about those ones.
No.
Anyway. Yeah,
sorry, I'm ruining your podcast, Sam. Sorry. Right.
No, fine. No, this is there's anything goes on this one. This is we're not sticking
secret
to
hoarder, secret shoe hoarder, we've just found out.
Behind the scenes, Ben Wells sometimes runs spells, mostly looks at shoes on his wardrobe behind the scenes. What has your injury woes? Because you have like quite a good run of not being injured, don't you? And then occasionally, very rarely, you're susceptible to injuries. You've had
I mean, mine doesn't sound too bad now after Kate's MCL woes, but I just had a groin strain, simple as that. And I have had a good year. I've had a really good year running wise, no injuries at all. Plenty of strength work, and I think it's just one of those things, catches up with me. I was doing some speed work, and I think it was something like 4 times 200s and then into 4 times 1Ks, and it was into the second 1K. I was like, hamstring's funny, my groin's not right. So I stopped and thought, right, forget it, I'll jog home and call it a day. But as I started to jog home, stabbing pain in my groin, so I did the walk of shame.
Oh no. Is it better now? I mean, is it just
settling down?
Rest?
So I went to see my physio. Shout out to Keris at Bodyworks in Blaenau-Festiniog. And just give me some sort of strength exercises to do. It looks like it's in the lower abdomen, right in the lower abdomen. So it's not the inner, is it the adductor muscle? It's not that.
Adductors.
Not the hip flexors. It's like right in that sort of pubic area. That's the only way I can describe it. And I thought, oh no, is this a hernia? But there's no lumps or bumps. So this such is life as a runner, isn't it? Head falls off for a week. That's it. I'm never going to be able to run again. But in reality, you're probably looking, if it's a grade 2 sort of tear, you're looking at about 8 weeks, aren't you? 12 weeks back to full sort of being able to do the speed work. But I'm just.
Do you have any races?
I did have one fell race I was going to do last Saturday, but I thought, right, I'll go marshal it. And
I was going to come up to the Trail Betis.
Okay, in September. Yeah.
No, it's next. It's in next week, 2 weeks time.
Oh, am I thinking of the Caney Cross Betis that was in September, I think. What am I?
Oh,
I might
that's all
get
Welsh
mixed
to
up,
me.
yeah. So yeah, so just focusing on getting fit again, strength work, nutrition. I've just written out a bit of nutrition plan, meal preps, just concentrating on the things that I can change. Back ready. And it's not a bad time of year, is it, to be injured?
No,
Could have happened in April.
no, absolutely. Just get fat for Christmas and then work it off when you get fitter.
Oh, you can't mention the F word. That's what me and Sam we sort of fat shame each other every week, don't we?
Yeah, I told that story to Ellis Bland, and we had a little cry together about feeling fat on the podcast. He's great. He's a great guy.
But no, I'm okay. We're all divas, aren't we? I think especially men in their middle 40s, probably more diva-ish than anyone else.
Yeah.
The world's all ended, but in reality,
midlife crisis.
Yeah, it's nothing. I'll be back running by Christmas properly.
Midlife injury crisis. That's what they call it.
Yeah, definitely.
Invented a term. Anyway, right, we've got all the bingo out of the way. So spine race and an injury. let's go to the main event. So UTMB and this fiasco. So unless you've been sort of living under a rock for a few weeks, you hopefully you've sort of heard the story about what's happened in Canada. So if people listening to the podcast sort of don't know what's happened, basically, and you guys can correct me if I miss any bits out. It seems like UTMB they made a shock announcement a few weeks ago to announce that they were going to do big UTMB style 100-miler, etc., all singing, all dancing in Whistler in Canada. And it just so happened to be on the same weekend as Gary Robbins' Coast Mountain Trail Company. Forgot the name right.
WAM.
WAM. Yeah. So the Coast Mountain Trail is the race company, and then the race was the WAM, which was what was it?
I need my glasses.
Whistler Alpine Meadows.
Whistler Alpine Meadows races over the weekend. So they've been established for about 5 years already, and it seems like the controversy is that obviously they'd already had that race penciled in for that weekend anyway, but they'd been sort of ghosted by the authorities that sort of give them permissions for that race, and they couldn't really understand why it wasn't getting all the permissions it normally got. And then suddenly UTMB announced that they're going to put this race on, and obviously everyone just sees red, because it seems that UTMB have come in, pushed out Gary Robbins and his team for an already established race that weekend, to kind of take over their legacy that they've already built up over sort of 4 or 5 years of putting races on that weekend. And what's your sort of take on it, Kate? With your what's your opinion on how things went down?
It is very difficult, obviously, not knowing the ins and outs and not talking to either side. Perceptions can be damning, whatever the truth is, unfortunately. It's interesting. I did read a question somewhere that someone asked, why did Gary decide to pull out permanently when the sort of time was running out in order for him to sort all the permissions ahead of the race in September, and he was struggling in sort of February. Why did he make the decision to pull out permanently rather than just say, right, we haven't got time for this year, let's just skip it and go for 2024? But yes, I mean, UTMB, there's always a difficulty, I think, when any industry becomes money making, there becomes a bottom line that has to be met, that can also then mean that things get trodden on and people get trodden on, and which isn't the feel of the trail running community, which is not what most people like about trail running. Most people do it because it is, it gets them into the mountains and the community is great and it gets them achieving things that they, most people wouldn't normally dream of. So I think UTMB does appear, it is a sort of, it's a inconsistency to that base feeling of trail running, is that it's, the corporate giant, the big evil corporate giant. And I think it's a tricky one, because it's easy to point them out as being the evil ones, but who knows? I
suppose with it's just, I suppose the fact people are picking up on the fact that, why did it have to be that specific weekend in September? Why, if they've got all that clout and that sort of power to be able to sort of maneuver things and be in conversations with Vale and Whistler Blackcomb, why take on that weekend? Because I think the community seems to be up in arms about the fact that they've sort of basically hijacked what's already there. I think
what people don't, what's not really been pointed out is, and they say UTMB have used sort of, well, there's room for everyone. I think it's a bit disingenuous, because there is room for everyone, and every one of us has a choice as to which races we pay to enter. But also, there's only 52 weeks or weekends in a year. The very definition of our sport means we can't do it every weekend. We have to plan carefully, to do the long distances that we aspire to. So, and depending on what areas it is as well, when it comes to, particularly when it comes to mountainous regions, you've only got a sort of 6-month time frame before they're snowed in. So I think it does become a real sort of fight for the prime spots at the prime times. And I don't know the area. this is British Columbia, in Canada. It's pretty remote. So how many people are actually in that area who want to do ultras, who want to do those sorts of distances? I did actually notice earlier that they are only offering 100k, a 50k, and a 25k. And that was one of the things that that Whistler had said to Gary, was that they'd only allowed him 2 races, an ascent, which I assume is like the American version of a VK, and a 25k, which again is, was pointless for him commercially, only be able to put on those 2 races. So
I think it got 100 miler. I'm sure in 2019, I think
he did previously, but UTMB next year, looking at their website, I just saw 3 options: 100k, I think 50k, and 25k.
But they're not even doing 100 miler.
I don't think so, but I could be wrong. But how many people in British Columbia want to run 100 miles? How many people want to get on a plane to go to do that race, to do a 100 miler or 100k?
Yeah, I think it is. Obviously, it's a big ski resort and everything all around there, and everything, it's full of people. But obviously, there's enough people there for Gary Robbins and his race team, race organisation, to be putting on races. You've got the Squamish 50, one of his races, really popular 50 miler.
What numbers did he have?
I don't know.
UTMB will want at least 1,000, I should think, won't they, to make it worthwhile for them? They've got to have the numbers to make it worthwhile.
That's true. Well, Ben, what's your take on it? Have you read Gary's blog about it?
I've read the blogs and I've listened to a few YouTube things on it. Interesting what UTMB stroke Ironman are saying regarding it. I heard a voice recording of an interview saying that they approached Vale, or is it Black Coombe Ski Resorts, that organisation, once they heard that Gary Robbins had finished with the event. So I think they got representatives in that area and thought, well, we'll take this on. It's already an established weekend. It's an established area. We'll take up the event and we'll put it on. So, you know, it does leave that question in your mind. Were they a bit naive? A big company like UTMB, you would have thought they would have seen the backlash. Could they have dealt with it better? But at the end of the day, they're a big corporation. They're in there to make the money. But they have done a lot for the sport. You know, you cannot deny that. There's nowhere else in Canada to have those stones, is there? I don't think there's no other UTMB events. So Kate's right. We don't know exactly what's gone on, do we? So it's very difficult to say exactly what's gone on. Is a breakdown in communication? Is it a underhand tactic by UTMB? I think they're getting perhaps a little bit of a bad press, in my opinion. I think perhaps the fault lies with that Vale Resorts and them. There's something not quite right there, you know. Why didn't they support Gary and his
I think that was that when you read his blog and everything, it sort of that he points that out. The couple of things he points out is the fact that communication had broken down with the people that they normally deal with, like their contact had sort of been ghosting them and not really getting back to them about permissions and things. And I think that's what led to the point where they realized they weren't getting anywhere, and that's why he realized he'd run out of time for putting on the race. Obviously you need a set amount of months to put a race on and organize a race and get everything in place. The deadline for them had come and gone, so they felt like they'd got no choice but to sort of let the date go. And then I think obviously then they find out that UTMB had then sort of come in and taken that weekend over. But I think another point he made in his blog was about the point that over lockdown, over the pandemic, UTMB had been in touch with them a couple of times to make offers on buying out their race over that weekend, which is another thing that sort of throws question marks up, doesn't it? The fact that
that's obviously
it was a Squamish race, wasn't it?
That they tried a couple of times. So 2 times, I think it sounds like twice they'd sort of said, no, we're not interested in being brought out. Our races are our races. And then eventually it sounds like he agreed to sort of hear them out and sort of say, okay, what's the offer? And it sort of said, if you did, you know, if you were going to be taking over the races, we want to, you know, like Western States is still independent, even though they are associated with UTMB now. They are still an independent race. I think that's the mistake I made in the article, is that I'd put that they'd been acquired by UTMB, and I think initially that was the plan, that they acquire them. But I think the deal was, okay, we'll have an association with UTMB, but you can't own us. Basically, we're still owned by, you know, it's a charity, so it can't be owned by them because it's not a business. I think they'd kind of gone down that route and sort of said, we don't want to be owned by you, blah, blah, blah. And then apparently that's when the ghosting sort of tied in at the same sort of time from their contact at Vale Whistler. And then it seems that everything else sort of fell into place, that everything went quiet, and then suddenly they get this announcement that this race is.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That's what's so suspicious, is, as you say, it's the people that it's the people handing out the permits and what have you. I mean, I know he got the sack, but
it's all a bit fishy. And to me, it sounds like it's all just. It's some coincidences, and it's all a bit of bad fortune. It's a bit unfortunate that all these things coincided all at the same time, and this is the sort of result. I don't think mean, I don't personally think that UTMB have gone in there and gone, look at that race. That's what we want. We're having that race, and no matter what happens, we're such a big organisation. We're going to push them out. We're going to buy that race, come hell or high water. I think it was just like it seemed that everything kind of fell in place for them. Unfortunately for Gary Robbins, it was, it didn't work out for them, but it worked out for UTMB. And I think possibly UTMB didn't quite realise the backlash that was going to come from it, from the point of view of people that are in the community and see it as, I suppose it's kind of shown UTMB up as what people actually think of them, rather than it being like they've come and brought money into the sport. And that, like Ben said, no one can deny what they've done for the sport. They brought money into the sport, highlighted it, brought, lots of attention to it. So you can't deny them that. But I think, people sort of,
I think again, you could probably point the finger more at Whistler for seeing the corporate and the more money, more numbers, more money, which is going to be better for them as a resort, because you're going to have all those runners and their families coming along and staying in the accommodation and going to the restaurants, versus Gary's presumably much smaller events that it's just not going to make them as much money. I don't think we can forget that third party in this. It's not just the big guy and the little guy.
Yeah,
what do you think will happen with it?
Do you think they'll sell out the race, or do you
I don't know. I think it's definitely going to be really interesting. And I've just seen Gary's doing a thing on X about memories of WAM, Whistler Alpine Meadows, or whatever they call it. And you get be entered into a prize draw for a free ticket to the new event next September. So that's definitely going to be on. And it'll be interesting. I'd be interested to know a little bit more about what the American view of UTMB is. I did ask a French contact of mine what the view of UTMB was in Europe, and he said it was, as a company, they prefer a better ecologically conscious brand. UTMB is not doing well on that, and they haven't made great decisions with obviously with their car sponsorship. Didn't go down too well. But I'll be interested to know what the Americans think of it overall as well, actually. And also Transvolcania, what happened there? I mean, they literally put it on for, was it 1 year, 2 years, 2021 and 3 years maybe. What made them back out so quickly?
Yeah, it seems to be. I think they're probably a bit unfortunate that they've got that suspicion around them when they came in. Ironman and everything brought them out, and everyone was a bit kind of like, is this bad for the sport? Is it good for the sport? Okay, well, maybe we'll sort of take it as it is and think it's good for the sport, but we'll keep an eye on them. And everyone was kind of waiting for him to slip up a little bit. And then the first sort of the first strike was, all the stuff to do with the sponsorship in France, Dacia and everything, and never got called out for that. And then you hear things about Transvolcania and why have they suddenly decided not to be a UTMB race? Differences of opinion. They can't really get to the bottom of that.
Let's face it, it's got to be the Ironman.
Yeah.
A dodgy lot.
Jason Coop, the coach in America, famous ultra running coach, he put on an interesting thing. Do you see that this week? That he put on. See if I think it's gone off my stories now. I did take a photo of it. So what did he put? No, I've lost it. But basically, he was saying, if you want to know how this is going to end, there was someone had put on like a list of all these triathlons that had been brought out by Ironman, and basically they all just disappeared. So there was all these famous triathlons that had gained established reputations and everything all over the world, and basically they don't exist anymore. They've just been sort of swiped to one side, and other events have been put in there under the banner of Ironman. And he was sort of saying, this is the future of ultra running for all these races that are going to disappear? But I don't see. I think especially in the US, there's such a rich heritage of people in the community being really proud of races that, and they haven't been going that long, have they? Like Western States, like 50 years into that's been running, which is it's a long time for a race, but they're really proud of that as like an institution. That's why they would never have been taken over by UTMB. So I think people in the US especially have got this sort of attachment to races and feel like, who is UTMB, who is Ironman to come in and buy these races? What gives them the right to do this? And I think they were suspicious of them to begin with. And then now, unfortunately for UTMB, this is kind of like the nail in the coffin for them, almost, for grassroots ultra runners. But you're obviously still going to get people that want to go to a big UTMB event. They spend like years preparing to go to UTMB. And Ben, what's your opinion? You've got a UTMB race not too far from you.
Yeah, we've Ultra Trail Snowdonia. Yeah, it was massive, wasn't it? I think we've talked about it before, and I think as long as people are so fanatical about it, UTMB will have that sort of power. There's so many events on in the UK, but that Ultra Trail Snowdonia was sold out in a lot of the categories, wasn't it? And we're not talking about a cheap entry fee. We're talking big money. Brought a lot of revenue to Clanberis and the local area. Yeah. But it doesn't really appeal to me, that sort of, I don't know, is it the prestige of it all? Is it so you can say I've done a UTMB event? Don't get me wrong, maybe the one in Chamonix, but I don't know what the appeal is, because there's so many good events that are on that cater just the same, or if not better, because they're perhaps not so stretched, well supported. I don't know. I think UTMB, the company, they've taken a hiding, haven't they, from the social media side of things and media, especially over the Dacia product, the car. And then you think of Gary Robbins, everybody loves him. He's such a nice guy, isn't he? Everybody's seen him on YouTube, his Barkley Marathon stuff, the nearly guy, you're wanting to do well. He's created all these events. Everybody can sort of relate to him. So I think there is that element as well. He's sort of everybody's mate, if that makes sense. He's a likable person.
He's just like, someone isn't he? He's just a guy, a traveler who's good.
I feel sorry for him. I think he's been done over, hasn't he? Been done over. So if one of your mates has done over, you think, right, I've never met the guy, but you're like, right, well, I'm going to enter one of his events. I'm going to support the locals. But I don't know what the attraction is, and so many people attracted to that event, the UTMB badge. Don't know. What do you think? Is it the prestige? Is it the name? Is it so you can tell your mates? I mean, don't get me wrong. If I had an entry into the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc, what's it, 108 miles? Is it 109 miles? Yeah, I'd do it. I think it's a one in a lifetime thing, but I'm not really that.
No, I mean, I entered Lavedo a few years ago, and I was genuinely shocked at the numbers and the impact that had. I wasn't even thinking on the environment, but just on my race, just the queue, the amount of time it took to get over the start line, the running through the town, and getting the moment you hit the trails. I mean, you had 5,000 people on a single track, you know, on a single,
Wow.
on a tiny single track. I mean, I just thought it was, I mean, I DNF'd anyway. I struggled with the altitude, but I thought it was not something I ever wanted to go back and replicate. And I can only imagine UTMB is worse. You know, I mean, personally, I get in the trails. I want to get into the mountains and not be surrounded by thousands of people. You know, especially not thousands of people for days. I mean, normally you sort of start a race, you're sort of bunched up to begin with, and then after a few hours, you know, you're alone, aren't you? Or you know, there's someone up ahead or someone behind, but generally you're kind of, you've got your space. Whereas Lavedo, I mean, I was out there for probably about 15, 16 hours. I was in a crowd the whole time.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, personally, not my cup of tea. Never will be. I don't think if I was given a place, I wouldn't do it.
That's interesting. I wonder, you know, because I interviewed Michael Jones about Ultra Trail Snowdonia, and his sort of view on it was that he knew he'd got an established race. He knew that things would be, he'd have more money to spend on the race. It would make the race as big as he wanted it to be, but somebody else was paying for it. He viewed it as all sort of net positive for him, that he could sort of take on a role of, you know, having the responsibility of sort of directing the race, but not having the financial responsibility of it.
Yeah, definitely a prestigious
Yeah.
thing to do, isn't it?
So for him, it was kind of like it was almost, he's saying like it was almost a no-brainer for him that he agreed to it, and you know, it turned into what it is. But then since this Gary Robbins thing, I've just thought, what would have happened if he'd said no to them and said, no, it's my race, you can sling your hook? Would they have then put on a rival race in Snowdonia and taken the crowd of people that would have done his race? And you know,
it's
they
not
could
very
have done
big, is it? Snowdonia. It's not like you all will just go into the next mountain range.
Trifan, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm amazed they managed to get a 100-mile race out of it, full stop. Must have been a few laps, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. But you know, we've spoke about it before, you know, the little fell races, which are just so cheap to enter. Really suffered last year, and I couldn't get my head around it. Maybe that's but the Yorkshire blood still in me. Would I want to pay £200 for an ultra, or perhaps just do that route myself with some mates?
I think a lot of that is happening now, you know, especially with the cost of living. I think a lot of people, you know, if they are, you know, they're still running and training, I think they're thinking, well, I could make an adventure of this by myself.
Yeah. I mean,
although, yeah, I think you've also got the other side of the coin is that we're seeing more and more people wanting a fully marked route. I spoke to Davey Newell of the Lap, who said that was definitely one of the reasons that he thinks his race is so popular, and it sells out, you know, almost instantly every time. Is that it's a nice route, it's a great route, and it's fully marked, and he absolutely you know, takes great pride in that, and it works. So
maybe that's part of the appeal, that people want to do a big organized race where they don't have to think. Maybe they're a bit scared of feeling like they've got to, you know, the idea of going into the wilderness and having to sort of find their own, you know, navigate and find their own way. Maybe that sort of scares them a bit, and they feel safe with a big race organization. I suppose it's the difference of somebody like wanting to do like Manchester Marathon rather than doing a local marathon. I don't know, or whether that's just the appeal of a big marathon.
Yeah, and I think that is where there's room for everyone. Yeah, I still think you come down to the fact that there was only a certain number of weekends.
Yeah, but could it have been a different weekend in
So
September?
could it have been? Well, yes. I mean, yeah. I think yeah, another part of the suspicion around UTMB is obviously the Ironman buyout and the sort of explosion. There's been no organic growth. It was growing organically, and then this sudden explosion when Ironman bought in, and the fact that that they've taken away all the stones from races that sort of signed up. Yeah, you're sort of forcing people's hands to run very specific races if you want to run in Chamonix.
It's like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Making
but I mean, it's working. I mean, people want to do it.
Give people what they want.
And that's my point. People want it.
Yeah,
people want to run these events, and people will pay the big top prices.
And that's what Ellie Greenwood, who she put that big post on, really defending Gary Robbins, because she's a local to that area, isn't she?
Yeah,
British Columbia, Whistler and everything. She does all of his races, and she was saying, vote with your dollars, basically. That if you want to enter a race, then enter a race, but show who you're going to support by who you pay your money to. So if Gary's putting on a race the same weekend as he originally planned, and UTMB have got one on, it's going to be. I think that's going to be really interesting.
I think we need to be out in Canada next year.
I was thinking it's now the time to sort of
with the popcorn
organize a trip to get people to his race to support them. And if there's enough support for people to go out there and show their support. And someone had made the comment, good luck trying to find volunteers for you.
Locals.
The locals are going to be like, no, get lost. We're going to Gary's race.
And do they get paid? I mean, actually, are they volunteers? I don't know.
Have they got that many staff that they've got enough staff?
But yes, I mean, I don't doubt Gary's race, whatever it ends up being, is going to be popular and filled up. There's no doubt about that. But I should think the UTMB one will also be, and in which case that means everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think Run Ultra need to do a special article on the.
We need to send. Do we need to send our special foreign correspondents out there again?
I think I can think of a couple of correspondents.
Yeah.
Go out there and cover the story.
you need to speak to your contacts in Canada then.
You can start saving up.
Yes. What does Kate think of a holiday in Canada next September?
Yes. Well, my brother lives on Vancouver Island, so.
Oh, right. Oh, well, you've got no excuse then.
It could happen.
Well, I might have to, your chief correspondent might have to come out too.
Yeah. Make it a big family trip.
Which
awesome.
one?
So what's the just finally then? What's the sort of consensus then? What are we sort of saying? Final thoughts on it? What's our final opinions on what's happened? If you can sum it up.
Unsurprising, and it will all turn out. I think it will all be fine in the end. I think UTMB will have what they want. I suspect Gary will probably come up with some lovely new race, hopefully, that will be, that will have unprecedented support. Which actually, which will mean that everyone will end up getting what they want.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Ben? What do you feel like?
Hard to say, really. I mean, to hold an opinion, I think in any industry, not just running, when you're talking large corporate companies, there's always something possibly underhand goes on with contracts and business, well, especially when you're talking multi-million pound industry. We're not that naive, are we? But without knowing the full details, it's hard to have an opinion. I think the blame possibly is with the resort. But then when you say blame, is it blame that they've got to look after their business? If UTMB can bring in big money for them.
He's so tactful, isn't he?
I just think people need to be.
Go on, Ben, stick your neck out.
People just need to be communicating better and just right. This we've finished with Gary because UTMB can bring in big money for the area, and we're a commercial company. We're not running a charity.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, absolutely. I think they saw the big money from UTMB, definitely.
And they could have done it properly, couldn't they? We'd like to thank Gary and his team. It's the same weekend. I guess the route will be slightly different. So, but
I don't think it is. I think the start and finish is slightly different, but it's pretty much the same route.
Yeah. But like I say, I like the guy, so I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for him. I think he's been done over.
Yeah,
really.
I agree. I think he's been done over, and I think it's just an unfortunate turn of events that's all coincided, and UTMB have sort of taken advantage of the situation, and so have the resort Vale. They've seen big money, and UTMB have seen an opportunity, and Gary's been pushed out, not by his fault, and probably not really by anyone's direct fault, but sort of a combination of things coming together that have just seemed to have just coincided and made it unfortunate. But it's not done much good for UTMB's reputation, unfortunately. So I think whether they'll get that back, I don't know. Whether people will start to trust them again as time goes on, maybe not.
Actually, another thing to consider is the fact that I wonder actually how many people outside of North America and our listeners and watchers actually know or care about Whistler in Canada when it comes to UTMB. You think about the sort of thousands and thousands of European people, they're probably going, what on earth is the fuss about?
WAM. Yeah. I mean, I'd heard of Squamish 50, but I'd not heard of WAM. It wasn't.
No, I hadn't.
There's races all over Europe, all over the world that I've never heard of that mean a lot to people. And I think Ben's right that I think Gary is such a well-known person in the worldwide community of ultra running that people have that probably wouldn't have been if it had been anybody else.
Yes. We wouldn't have known about it otherwise.
Yeah, paid attention to it and known about it. It'd just have been another race that appeared.
Yeah.
Nobody knew the backstory, but because of the high profile nature of him and his race company, that's probably why more interest has been shown. But it kind of highlights people's mistrust of IRONMAN and UTMB at this point. So we'll see how it pans out.
Could you imagine UTMB coming in and taking over the Yorkshire Three Peaks Fell Race, Edale Skyline and the Langdale Horseshoe? And you get 1 stone if you complete it.
Well, how would you feel about that?
Oh, they've been up, wouldn't they?
They would be. Yorkshire would never let it happen.
No, they wouldn't. It just wouldn't happen, would it?
They'd be like, "You're charging how much?" No Yorkshireman's entering that race.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a local issue that's been highlighted globally that people have interest in it on the global scene because of what the high profile nature of the people involved. Yeah, so basically we don't really have any answers, do we? So it was, this discussion was pointless.
No, I think we've established that it's going to go ahead no matter what.
Yeah,
Gary will put on an awesome race that everyone will support, and maybe people will just think twice or be more careful in their consideration if they have a race that UTMB wants or is an area that they want to move to. Maybe they'll ask more questions and not let them just roll over them.
Yeah. And like Ellie Greenwood said, people will vote with their dollars, won't they? Or their
Yeah.
pounds. Over here, they'll vote, you know, by entering races that they want to do that mean into them. Absolutely. Awesome. Right. Appreciate you both coming on and giving us your time and your opinions. And it's nice to have a little update from both of you about your injuries, and I hope.
Oh, he's so smug.
Well, I'll probably fall over tomorrow on my way to work.
No. Long may you remain uninjured, and I shall look forward to picking up the pieces in January.
Yes. Are you going to be for all those playing Spine Bingo? Are you going to be at Spine on checkpoint again? No, are you going to be on? You're going to be on
safety team. I'm on SST 5 for most of the week, and then 8 for the last day.
So where will you be in a set place, or are you roving?
No, I think we're following the leaders.
You weren't following me now.
You never know. You remain uninjured, you might be.
Yeah, you never know. Doubtful. Well, it's good to know that I'm in safe hands. Thanks, Ben.
You're welcome.
Good to see you both.
Yeah, good chatting. Thanks for your time, guys. Talk soon.
Pleasure.
All right.
Cheers. Bye.